Welcome to the Diary of the 1%, a podcast for those who refuse to settle for the ordinary and are determined to create a life of excellence. If you have ever wondered what step top achievers apart from the rest, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rachel Wilson. This is episode 3 of this podcast, The Power of Consistency. Stay tuned as we dive into it. I still remember the exact moment I first saw a saxophone. I was scrolling through the internet when I stumbled on a picture of it. Something about it captivated me. So this is what a saxophone looks like. I thought to myself, I have never seen one up close before, but in that moment, I decided I was going to own one. But at the time, I was in my senior secondary school with no job, no source of income, but my usual pocket money. But I was determined. I started saving, sacrificing snacks, little luxury, anything that wasn't essential for an entire year. I gathered every naira I could. Eventually, I had enough. I bought the saxophone for 65,000 naira. Finally, I bought my saxophone. The excitement was overwhelming, but little did I know buying a saxophone was not the easy part. With my new instrument in hand, I started practicing. At first, it was frustrating, my fingers felt stiff, the notes sounded off, but I pushed through. Over time, I managed to master the C key. It wasn't much, but it was a starter. By the time I got into university, I took my saxophone along. I determined to continue learning, but school was demanding, assignment, classes, social activities, and all of them competed for my attention. Still, I practiced when I could. When something interesting happened after my first semester, I returned home and found out that my friend Andrew had bought a trumpet. He had only owned it for about a week when I saw him. Compared to my 1 year journey with the saxophone, it was just getting started. One afternoon, Andrew came over with another friend, Faith. I picked up my saxophone and started playing, showing off the little skills I had gained over time. As I played, I noticed Andrew watching me, completely mesmerized. Then in a low voice, he turned to Faith and said, "This girl is really ahead of me." I did not think much of it at the time, but what happened next stuck with me. Faith glanced at him and replied, "Don't worry, you'll be better than her. This one doesn't even practice consistently." His words stuck a little. I felt slightly offended, but I switched it off. I was practicing just not every day. Not long after, I returned to school, and life got even busier. Slowly, my saxophone started spending more time in its case than in my hand. I will practice tomorrow, I told myself, but something became next week. And next week became next month. Meanwhile, Andrew, he was relentlessly practicing. He practiced every single day. 3 months later, I heard that he had already started playing from church to church, improving rapidly. And me, my saxophone became another item collecting dust. Today, I can't even tell where it is. But Andrew, he was now a well trumpeter, an exceptional one at that. When I heard the story, it began to make sense to me. At the time when the event happened back then, I was a bit offended, but it didn't really make so much sense to me. When the guy said, "This one that was not practiced consistently," it didn't really make so much sense to me. This was one of the lessons I learned, and time interpreted that particular lesson to me. At the time when I learned that lesson, I could not fathom it in full. But as time begins to unfold, as scenarios begins to play out, that word begins to make sense to me. Consistency. Consistency. Now, what is the difference between I and Andrew? It was not about the talent. It was not about how long we had owned our instrument. It was not about what we did with them. Andrew practiced daily while I practiced when I had time. And that made a whole lot of difference. If there's one thing I learned from the experience, it's this. Success isn't about the big leaps. It's about the small, consistent step you are taking. There is nothing you want to achieve with inconsistency, you will not be able to achieve them. The results you want, they don't come from occasional effort. If you do things occasionally, if you practice when it is convenient for you, if you do your things at your own convenient time, you will really amount to anything that way. They come from things you do every single day, even when you don't feel like it. Now, what if I tell you you are necessarily not doing anything wrong? All you lack is consistency. So the word consistency, I am sure this is not the first time you are hearing consistency. So what does consistency mean? Consistency is one thing we all need in our journey. You will be surprised how small repeated action can lead to massive results. But the challenge is that most of us stop before we see the results. We struggle to be patient enough to learn our efforts compound. Patience, consistency, and the desired result are like a three-strand cord that cannot be separated. If you want to see real results, you must stay consistent, especially when things start going tough. Many people are on the right path, but they fail to push through because they lack consistency. Most time we give up before our results start showing. Now, what is consistency? Consistency is the ability to do something repeatedly at a specific time and frequency. Now, I want you to take note. Specific time and frequency, whether hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly, without breaking the pattern. Now, the key here, what delivers the result to you, is the frequency, the pattern at which you do that thing repeatedly. It doesn't mean you are not going to do it again. If you do it today, you do it tomorrow, then the next time you do it is in 4 days' time, then in a month later you practice again. You are still doing it repeatedly, but you are breaking the pattern. There is no frequency, there is no consistency. It's about showing up with discipline and maintaining the same energy, even when motivation fails, because motivation will actually fail. And this is what we don't know. Now, look at the energy to which I bought my saxophone. I literally saved for good 1 year, denied myself of some pleasure, denied myself of luxury stuff. When my friends are taking ice cream, I could tell my mom, please don't buy ice cream for me. Give me my own ice cream money. I want to add it to my saxophone. The energy I started with, passion can fail. Do you understand? Like the motivation fades, and that is what we don't realize early. So when the motivation starts failing, you motivate yourself. Then the motivation comes to understanding you have that consistent. At the time, I didn't know what it meant to be consistent. It wasn't sitting well with me. I didn't have enough understanding to interpret that word that my friend had. Don't forget, we were all age mates, but something differentiated us. He understood the power of consistency, and probably at the time, it was the one coaching Andrew. I really can't tell, but I believe because he understands the power of consistency, he will have played a major role in ensuring that Andrew keep on doing when he was tired. And that is one system I don't have in my own. There's no structure. There was nobody pushing me. Consistency builds habits, and habits create results. When you establish a routine and stick to it, you begin to see transformation. Not because of one big effort, but because of accumulation of small daily efforts. Now, I mentioned initially that one of the things that really helped Andrew was the fact that the friend was in the picture, more like a manager, encouraging him. Now that brings me to having a structure. Now, I mentioned as well that your motivation can fade, and that is where these structures come in. So I will be mentioning a few structures that will help you stay consistent on anything you have set your heart to achieve. The first one is clarify your why. Before you commit to anything, ask yourself, why is this important to me? A strong reason will keep you going when challenges arise. The second thing I'll mention is create a simple and realistic routine. For me, I could go 6 hours stretch on the day I practice, and after that day, maybe a week or 2 weeks later. But Andrew was literally doing probably an hour or 30 days every day. Now, those baby steps is what matters. Don't set a goal you will not be able to achieve. Start with small, manageable steps. Overcomplicating your routine can make it difficult to maintain. Keep it simple but effective. Sometimes we want those complicated things. Sometimes we I don't know, we like it complicated. We want it to look sophisticated. You want to be able to prove to yourself that, oh, you are doing a lot. But at the long run, we are giving ourselves a benchmark that eventually we might not meet up with time. The third thing I will mention is set specific time blocks. Whether it's working out, writing a book, or learning a particular skill, schedule it at the same time each day or week. This trains your mind to expect and prepare for it. Now, if you are working out, you could decide that every 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. I must be up. Now, because you already set a time to it could be 7 a.m. to 7:30, just 30 minutes every day. The fact that you have a time, your heart expects it. Like your body structure begins to respond in that manner. Once it's few minutes to 7, you remember, oh, there's something set for 7 a.m. every day of my life. Now your body begins to adjust to it, and because there is a set time, your body adjusts to it, and that also helps you. Now, use reminders and track progress. Set reminders, use a journal, or track your progress on an app. Seeing how far you have come can be motivating. At the junction, I felt like I wasn't even doing well with this saxophone, but because I wasn't recording my progress. This is me that was finding it out to even flip my finger along all the keys. Now, at the point I mastered that key C, but I forgot that at the point you could not do this, just because I wasn't tracking my progress. Eliminate distraction. This is the 5th point I'll mention. Identify what usually break your consistency. Is it social media, procrastination, or lack of planning? Remove these obstacles to stay on track. Before I could lay my hands on what distracted me, it took me a while. I procrastinate. My major challenge at the time was procrastination, but I could not figure it out early enough. So the earlier you figure out your distraction, the better. If you know it's social media that distracts you, at a particular time, you might decide to stay offline. Yes, I have a mentor at the time that for like 2-3 years, he was not on Facebook. He did not have any Instagram page. That was what worked for him at the time. So know what distracts you and work towards it. The 6th thing I will mention is stay accountable. And this is what I learned through real life. Accountability. I believe the presence of faith in Andrew's life helped him achieve that goal. I probably, after the discussion that day, probably on their way back to their house, he spoke to Faith and said, you know what, Faith, you need to always keep me in check so as to ensure that I'm practicing consistently. Now, most time we see all these things are big things, that just little things that your friend can come and be your accountability partner. You don't necessarily have to be looking for someone on social media. We go all out, stretching our hands to people that does not even have our time. So when you are picking an accountability partner, when you are picking someone to be accountable to, let it be someone that is readily available. It could be your friend, it could be your pastor, but let it be someone that can oversee you. And this is the issue of accountability. Get an accountability partner. Join a group or announce your commitment to someone. Accountability increases the likelihood of follow through. Now, I have someone in my life that if I don't want to do this thing, don't even mention it to him. Once you mention it, you are not going to rest. Considering the fact that he knows that I procrastinate a lot, until eventually I have to train myself off procrastination. It ensures that once I mention that thing to him, I am not going to, at the point I feel like, oh, I don't even understand. Is this your vision or mine? Because he's actually going to take it personal. And that is what accountability does for you. Another thing I will say lastly is be willing to adjust. Now, if you listen to my podcast episode 2, I mentioned that no project goes 100% as planned. So be willing to adjust. Life happens and routines may need to be tweaked. Instead of quitting when things don't get as planned, make adjustments and keep moving forward. Now, what is one of the things that affected me? Life happened to me. I got to school and I had another commitment, and I felt at the point, oh, the reason why I'm here, they sent me to school to come and learn, and this became my priority. Now, every student, especially university student, have this mindset. You let go of every other thing in your life to pursue your study. That is beautiful. But I want you to also know that you could adjust your schedule to fit into things, little things that will help you even while you are learning. When you are in school, that is not all that it is to your life. You have other phases of your life. Some of us focus on academics. We leave God out of the way. You don't go to church. You are not committed in your fellowship just because you are learning, just because you are an undergraduate. You are not doing any other skill. And that is why many people graduate nothing to show, just their A4 paper, the certificates. And this is also important. Knowing that you can make adjustments, you can tweak your schedule. That is also important. Now, my final thought. Success does not come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. The results you seek are on the other side of consistency. Keep going, keep showing up, and eventually your effort will pay off.